Time flew.
Oh my gosh. Summer's half over.
Summer, yeah. Now we just gotta wonder if there's gonna be a football season.
I hope. It feels so doubtful, eh?
Time flew.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Summer's half over. Oh. Yeah.
Summer, yeah.
There we go.
Go Bills.
You know, if it wasn't for our poor performance with the pandemic, you almost wonder if the NFL could have pivoted and done their games in England.
Oh,
You know,
yeah.
just because they've been doing that for the last handful of years, right? I mean, they're kind of building that base out.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
It would have been interesting. I mean, Premier League soccer just wrapped up, their season.
Right onto US 50 eastbound.
I don't think football's going to happen. Just don't see it happen. I'd love to see it, but
Me too.
A living thing that was attached to me.
All right, 237 or 233. We got.
Bigger than a wrist around that was moving like
On
this.
YouTube, which is good. Oh, Roy.
yes.
Hey, in honor of Ithaca.
Oh, State Street Diner. All right. Love it. Just down the street.
Everything's kind of just down the street in Ithaca.
That's true.
All right, well, just give us a couple of minutes for people to drop in. I just want to welcome everyone. Hope you are having a great week. This for some is the end of the week, and my guess is for others it is the beginning. So wherever you're landing on that spectrum, thanks for taking the time to show up with us today. All right. Good.
Watch the show, so I just go about my bed.
He did. I had already said earlier.
So you can watch the show.
Yes, man.
Hey.
No, my friend.
You want to bust out laughing?
My friend.
Whenever I was talking to you a second ago, everybody on the Zoom meeting could hear me. I don't know.
Still can.
You can hear you
Shanice
now.
tried to call me. Tanya tried to call me.
All right. Hey, it's
You want me
2:35, so I am going to go ahead
I'm
and
gonna just play the actual episode, so I'll let you.
There we go. Okay, so it's 2:35. I'm gonna go ahead and mute everyone so we can get started, and I know that other people will join us as they're able to. Again, welcome to Town Hall. It's great to have everyone here. It's just been a really cool experience to connect with people, and it was a special treat for me to watch Precious last week. And just she did such an amazing job facilitating and hosting the meeting, and brought her own flavor and her own message to it, which I thought was exceptional, just awesome. So thank you, Precious, for filling in and doing such a fabulous job. I actually was in the other room, so I was able to listen to some of it, and then I went back and watched it all, and it was just really, really, really cool. So more times like that to come when we have other hosts coming in and adding their flavor to this whole mix and seeing how it goes. But really enjoyed having Precious. I know you all did too last week, so hats off. Give her some love in the chat. Kudos to her. She did such an amazing, amazing job. So I want to kind of start the meeting as we traditionally do, and just make sure that we take a look at kind of the latest on COVID. Actually, we've got some positive news. That being said, people we support and staff are still testing positive and still struggling with the virus, and we want to hold them up. So the latest is that we have 4 people that we support testing positive. That's 1 in DC and then 3 in Virginia. So the good news there is that the Virginia numbers have come down substantially in the course of the last week or two. So that's good that we're heading in the right direction there in Virginia, that people are recovering. That's also very good. We still have one person that we support hospitalized in Virginia. I do believe that they are stable though. So I'm not sure if it's the same individual that's been hospitalized for a few weeks now, and certainly understand that, you know, depending on the underlying illness and conditions that people have, will determine a lot of that, correct? So our thoughts are with that individual. And then staff positives have also dropped, although they have spread out a little bit. So we have 6 staff that have tested positive currently, 2 in DC and 2 in Tennessee. And now we're down to 2 in Virginia. If you remember, we're at 13 and we're down to 2. So that's, again, movement in the right direction in Virginia. Happy to see that our total numbers of 6 staff testing positive are down. You know, certainly our thoughts and prayers are with them. We do not have anyone hospitalized from a staff standpoint, fortunately, anywhere actually. So that's a positive thing. So, but again, we want to take this moment and just think about our team members and those people that we support and family members that are affected by COVID and going through all this time. Obviously, we all know that we're not out of the woods, even though our numbers are moving in the right direction. As things reopen, the risk increases. And as you all know, I think the US death toll crossed over 150,000 people in the last couple of days. And continues to go higher and higher daily. So let's just take a moment of silence and think about those that have been affected by this and hold them in our hearts and in our prayers. If you join me. Thank you for doing that. And thank you for caring so much about whether it is the people that we support or whether it's our fellow team members. This team collectively just is amazing. And the support that they provide each other is incredible. And I'm just really blessed and humbled by that. Really grateful that we work together in this corporate community. This organization that cares about not just the people we support, but about each other and goes out of their way to show that. So thank you so much for that. Today is Frontline Friday, so that is awesome. And we want to give a shout out to Ms. Akia Anderson, who is a direct support professional in Bartlett and has been there for 3 years. And just want to pull up our Facebook page here. I think I have that right here. Miss Akia Anderson has been a direct support professional in Tennessee for 3 years. Her favorite part about her job is assisting the individuals and the acknowledgement that I receive from their families, along with the smiles and the joy from the individuals, as well as building a bond with the individuals and my colleagues. Also, just knowing I am making a difference. Her biggest challenges during the pandemic have been making sure she stays safe in order to keep the individuals she serves safe and healthy, along with finding daily things to keep the individuals she supports active and engaged. That's got to be an enormous challenge. I mean, I imagine that as everything has been basically centered from the home, that everyone has been homebound during this time. You know, that's got to be incredibly challenging to keep people stimulated, keep them active, keep them engaged. So thank you so much, Akia, for all that you do. We are so humbled and proud and grateful to have you as our Frontline Friday ambassador. And most importantly, to have you on our team and supporting those individuals the way that only you do. So thank you so much. And at this point, I wanted to have Ryan Temple, who's worked with her, kind of take himself off mute. And Ryan, I think you had a few words that you wanted to share.
Yes, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, Alan, to be able to recognize one of our own. There's so many. There's so many. And to spell me off here near the tail end here, I'll ask Shantae to unmute herself later so she can share a few words as well with regards to Akia. My first impression of Akia was solid spirit of excellence, genuine, a quiet style about her. Everything about her is reliable and automatic. And she exudes that every day that she comes to work, whether it be frontline care for our individuals, whether it be administrative needs to follow up on within the home, whether it be the technology that we've employed with Hangouts in the home. Everything is very reliable and automatic, and Akia has been tremendous with that. Shantae, feel free to unmute yourself to add a few kind words.
Well, hello, everybody, and happy Friday. I definitely agree 150% of what you just spoke of, Ron. She is definitely one of a kind. One of the most amazing things about her challenge is that she makes it happen. She stated that it's a challenge keeping the people that she support active. One thing I definitely want to thank her for is being my reminder. She's always on the Friday call. She's in here now. I see her now that I clicked over. But she's always active in here and she wants to know. So she sends me reminders. I know you're busy, but don't forget, get on the call. I'm like, I'm getting on. I'm here. I see it. But she takes upon any challenge that's thrown her way and makes it great. She's very supportive, not just to the people we support here in Bartlett, but the parents as well. They are so much at ease with her working with the people she work with, that they're always sending me messages, text messages, calling, and just speaking so highly of her. So thank you so much, Akia. I know it's been a challenge during this pandemic, but as always, we will get to the other side. Thanks for being creative. She's one of the few that makes sure the people she support gets out when it's hot in Tennessee. So they get out, they get wet. She requested water hose and sprinkler system. So she's very creative, and I just want you to know that I appreciate you. As I tell all my staff that I work alongside with, you know I love you, and I thank you so much.
Thank you, Shantae. Thank you, Shantae. One last thing too is we with her home that she works at, we've got, obviously it's very lean and limited staff everywhere, right? So she's really answered the bell there, but we had a COVID scare there where one of our individuals' family members came down with a positive test. And it kind of threw us in a tizzy, to get everybody tested, the gentleman in the home tested. So we're on pins and needles there for a little bit, because that gentleman goes home to his family's house every weekend, right? So there's certainly some cross tracing that did happen there. Thank God everybody did come back negative with regards to that instance. And it again is a testament to what's going on, everybody following the procedures, the COVID-19 emergency response manual, social distancing, wearing PPE, health and safety has been at the forefront, and Akia and the rest of the team there has been huge in that.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, Shantae. So I see that Akia threw a thank you all in the chat. And Shantae, you said that Akia happened to be on this call. Akia, if you are on this call, would you mind taking yourself off mute for a second?
Hey.
Hey, how are you, Akia?
I'm fine. Thank you all.
Listen, we want to thank you. I mean, you are truly amazing. Akia, you've been with St. John's for 3 years.
Yes.
It's not often that we necessarily get to talk to our people that are our Frontline Friday ambassadors, because a lot of times they are unavailable to be at the meeting. For you to be here is a very special treat for us. How is it, like, what is it about St. John's that you love so much that has kept you at it for the last 3 years?
I can say it's the individuals. It's the individuals and the support that I get from staff and administration and family. It's a combination of things.
That's awesome. So, and one of the things that we know through our CARF surveys that we do is that we have a very high rating with family members. That something like 95, 97% of family members would recommend us to somebody that might be looking for someone for their loved ones. And I just want to say thank you again, Akia, because it's your and being such an amazing ambassador in PSP that makes that happen. You know, when family members see folks like you doing the work and really supporting their loved one in a way that it's like you're supporting your own family member, that makes such a difference in their lives. So again, we're blessed to have you, and I just want to say thank you so very much for all that you're doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care now. Are you on shift now, or are you just able to pop in today?
Both. I'm on shift and able to pop in today.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you for taking the time. That really makes such a difference for us. So thank you very much.
No problem. Thank you.
All right. So just want to cover some things related to HR and finance, just to be able to chat about a few things. First of all, Paycom. We are pushing hard on Paycom. And if you have not had your Paycom session, gone to the mandatory training, you have one final session, and that is at 4 p.m. Eastern Time or 3 p.m. Central Standard Time today. So that's it. We absolutely need to get everyone through one of those sessions. They're really important. They're also very streamlined. So, and they're very well done. And so I would just encourage you, make sure that if you haven't had a chance, go to the session today. They're only about an hour. They're very easy to do. And it's mandatory. We need you to do it. We need 100% compliance in order to be able to make sure that we have everyone on the same page, that we're not leaving anyone behind. The reason I'm looking down is that I'm looking at my Paycom screen, and you'll notice that there are no red dots or circles by the notification bell, okay? This is important because it means that so far I've done what I'm supposed to do to be able to be ready for the Paycom launch. So it's important that you also go on to your Paycom screen on the app, and if you have a red circle or number or anything on that notification bell, that means that you've got work to do. And the work isn't hard, but it's necessary in order to make sure that all your information is up to date and correct, that you're getting paid appropriately, that you're able to start scheduling time, that you're doing everything that you should be doing. So be sure that you're making sure to get rid of all those red dots and numbers, and that basically your checklist is at 0, that you've gone through all the training that you're supposed to. I completed a training today on employee scheduling because I went on earlier and I wanted to be able to say I had no red dots, and I was fortunate to squeeze some time in and be able to knock that out. So yes, we want everyone to be in compliance. The team has worked so hard. Everybody has lifted so much together to try to make this as seamless an implementation as possible. Some of you might not know, but we had challenges when we implemented ADP a few years ago. And so the leadership team has really stepped up and said, we're going to be 100% compliance. This one's on us. If it doesn't go well, we have us to look in the mirror and blame. So we want to make sure that this is a tool that helps you to the fullest extent of its ability. And it is an amazing tool, but you got to be doing your part. So I just thank you all for going through all of the training so far. There's other things still to be done with this. Managers have to log in as managers and go through trainings, and we will be doing that as well. But I just want to make sure that we're all up to date and doing the best we can. So one final training, that is today at 4. If you haven't taken it yet, please jump on that as soon as possible. And that's 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 3 p.m. Central Standard Time. Okay, also wanted to, and then Precious, remind me of the date. If you want to throw it in the chat or take yourself off mic, I don't have my email up in front of me. The date that we go live. I want to say it's August 10th, but I also want to be correct.
You are correct. The go live date for clocking in and utilizing Paycom to its fullest is August the 10th, 2020 at 12 a.m. That's the first hour of the 24-hour day on 8/10. So we will begin clocking into Paycom on 8/10. Salary staff will begin to put their hours on Paycom on 8/10.
Cool. Thank you very much. So we are moving forward with this full speed ahead, and we want you to be with us because it's a tool for you. You know, we chose this tool to make the lives of our team members easier. So we're doing all our best. And yes, Rich, she is saying, everyone, that the go live date is 8/10. Okay, so there we go. But I want to throw a personal challenge out there that on a weekly basis, you know, for the first month or two as we're moving into Paycom implementation, that I will be able to show you my screen and show you that I'm in 100% compliance and that I have no little red dots, okay? I used to do some rock climbing back in the day, and with the gear that they set us up, there was always a saying that if you see red, you're dead. So that was cause for concern. I would say similarly, if you see red on your Paycom screen, it means you have something to do in order to be compliant, but it'll also be able to fully utilize the tool. All right, also want to let you know that our last paycheck that we had was the last of which we were able to do hazard pay. If you remember, we were doing hazard pay with the PPP funds that we were fortunately able to get. Those were loans through the Small Business Administration that we were able to access to help us during a very difficult time. And they also helped us provide hazard pay. And so we have now exhausted our PPP funds, okay, which means the hazard pay piece is going away. In fact, we actually had to utilize our own dollars as well in order to make hazard pay a possibility. And so just to give you an update on where we are, I always want to try to be as transparent and up to date with you as possible. So if you received hazard pay, and you should have, if you're a direct service employee, last paycheck, your next paycheck, you should not anticipate seeing that there, okay? So I'm afraid that it's going away, but we have exhausted all of the money that was set aside for that purpose. I do want to thank Rich and Sherry and those that were involved in doing those calculations and making that possible. Navigating the PPP process is like uncharted waters, and we continue. There's still a lot of ambiguity. We hope to have a lot of those dollars forgiven, but the reality is we won't know that until we go through the process. And Sherry is doing an amazing job, you know, trying to dot every I and cross every T to ensure that we are able to see those funds forgiven, so that we don't have this massive loan to repay, because we received about $5 million in PPP funds. And we spent $5 million in PPP funds. So ideally, we don't want to have to pay that back as a loan, but it still is a loan at this point in time. So that's how myself and Sherry and other members of the leadership team and the board are treating it and looking at it at this point in time. And then just again, Ryan touched on this, and I bring it up at every meeting, but I just want to thank you all for staying in compliance relative to the SJCS protocols as it comes to social distancing, as it comes to COVID protection, as it comes to cleaning and disinfecting. We certainly need to maintain those, especially now as states reopen at a greater volume, and we actually see the number of cases rising across the United States and the number of deaths rising across the United States. We have been negatively impacted by COVID, but we have not been as impacted as other providers. And it's through your efforts of keeping those that you support and your fellow team members safe through social distancing, through wearing masks. All those things have contributed to helping us have the lowest impact possible and keep the people that we support as safe as possible. So I just want to thank you for that. I also just want to remind you that should you be exposed, and the likelihood is you could be exposed to someone that tests positive for COVID as we interact more out the community, you still need to be in contact with your manager as soon as possible. You still need to follow through protocols at your local level, the local health protocols for getting tested, for contact tracing, and then for return to work with St. John's and your manager. And communication is key. We really appreciate everyone that has been really diligent about letting us know about their tests and kind of the results of their tests. We need that information in order to keep navigating this very challenging time. So we thank you for your cooperation with that. And especially because at the end of the day, it's about the lives of the people we support. It's about our team members being safe. I'm happy that we are seeing finally the numbers start to decline in St. John's, but I'm still feeling, just as the leadership team is, very cautious and conservative about what that means. Now is not the time to pull back. Now is the time to keep pressing in on our protocols, okay? Because it's a difference maker. It is a life and death situation, and is a difference maker. So thank you so much for that. Also, I wanted to follow up on this. I'm a little delayed on this, but I did finally make contact and send an email out to those that expressed interest in being part of the Ally Initiative. I'm not saying that that's what the title is going to be, but for now, it describes our initiative at St. John's that we want to launch and get off the ground, where we'll have a group of employee volunteers that are going to be part of helping us expand and improve our diversity and inclusion and equity across the organization. So again, crawl, walk, run, we're starting with a meeting, and we'll do that in August. We will start by, 1 hour meeting where we talk about the parameters and the goals and the areas that we want to focus on for this volunteer group that's coming together. And then we will, from there, start working together on a monthly basis over the course of the next 6 to 9 months. And then we'll probably rotate some people off and ask for some new folks to join us as well, so that we can keep this alive, so that we can keep it changing and evergreen, and that we can keep bringing in new voices into the mix. And the whole goal here is internally to improve as an organization, and then also externally know how to message better, know how to engage and support each other in our diversity and inclusion. So I'm really excited to see this taking form, and I will continue to report on that as it starts to develop. So the next step is our first meeting, which will be scheduled next week. It won't necessarily be next week, but it'll be scheduled next week for sometime in August. So thank you for those that are involved in that. I'll be sure to update all the names for you all, so that you're aware of who's involved once we've finalized that list and nailed down our little task force. And then this is very special announcement that I want to make. You are not going to want to miss the August 21st, the 8/21 town hall. Okay, and that's Friday, August 21st. So it's just a few weeks out. It will be one of the most special, memorable town halls that we ever have, because we will be witness to the marriage of Cherie Young and Steve Sims. They have chosen not just to get married, which is a wonderful thing. They have an amazing story together, but they want to include us, their family from St. John's, in that. And so on August 21st, during town hall, we will be going live from their venue, and we are all going to be witnessing their wedding. So I'm super excited. It's going to be a great day and a great moment in the history of St. John's. And we are going to be celebrating with Steve and with Cherie. I'm so excited and can't wait to witness that. So mark that on your calendar. We'll certainly be announcing that in the time to come, but yeah, so that you don't miss it. We want to make sure that you're able to check it out and be there to celebrate. And then just talking about the season that we're in right now for planning and for finance and for budgets. Okay, so this is a big summer, if you will, because during the summer is when we do a lot of our strategic planning. We start looking at the budgets and planning the budget for 2021. Our goal is to get that in front of the Board of Trustees in September, so that we can be able to have them approve the budget. It's an iterative process in the sense that between now and then we work with their committees, the Finance Committee, the Strategic Initiatives Committee, in order to identify some key initiatives and investments that we want to make that will help build capacity and help us drive change and move the organization forward. So, and I'm excited because of all of the work that has happened and the difficult decisions we've made with restructuring, and everyone kind of tightening down on expenses, and then the work that's happened on the revenue generating side and the billing and collections and the AR side. I'm incredibly excited because I really believe that we are positioned to make some strategic investments that will build capacity for St. John's. What does it mean to build capacity? You hear that term thrown out a lot. Well, it's basically like if you think about your car and your gas tank, okay? So if your gas tank is a quarter full, you're not going to go as far as if your gas tank is totally full. And so when you add gas, that's adding capacity to your car to be able to go further. And organizationally, it means being able to take resources and allocate them or direct them in a way that's going to strategically move the organization forward. So this is exciting because it means that we're going to be making investments in new initiatives or bolstering existing initiatives to expand and grow our capacity and ultimately the impact that we can have as an organization on mission, on the people that we support. And so it's an exciting time because it's a time where we can dream and we can actually take our thoughts and dreams and we can like turn them into reality, into plans that can lead to a better future. And so we are really excited to be doing that right now. Last week or 2 weeks ago, I introduced you to Bessie Thibodeau Belcher, who is our new Chief Development and Marketing Officer. That's a great example because over the last year, we've started making strategic investments in development and fundraising, and as well as marketing. It started with us starting to cobble a team together, and then we hired Ryan to be our creative marketing director, and then we brought Amanda on, and we brought Chloe in as our intern, and we brought Sandra on from Tennessee, and we started forming this team. And we really leveraged the strength of the team during COVID to really get our point of view out there, to be able to start sharing about Champions in the Crisis in our programs and how we were still here serving in the midst of this pandemic. We started using that voice to talk about things that matter to us, like Black Lives Matter, and be able to lend our voice to that important movement. So bringing Bessie on really is a key move in helping to start to build out our fundraising foundation. Fundraising is a different function than marketing, but they are often linked together. And so they're housed under one team now, which is our development and marketing team. So they will be doing both communications to share our voice on the marketing side and helping programs across the organization have the tools that they need to be able to grow and expand and share about the value that they create in their communities. But then it's also about connecting very intentionally to individual donors and getting them to understand who we are and see whether or not they would have affinity for us and believe in our cause and want to support us financially. We started to get a taste of that during our campaign that we ran through May, where we raised about $65,000 from donations. Many of you gave to that. Thank you so much. And a lot of you shared our stories in our post during that time. And then individual donor giving can lead to other relationships, whether it be corporate partnerships, whether it could be foundation giving. So we start this process of building generally the foundation of our fundraising program. That's a great example because over the next year, going into 2021, we're going to see more investments and make more investments in fundraising. Now, fundraising is like farming. It can take a while. The seeds that we plant now, we may not be able to reap them for, it could be 18 months, 3 years, 5 years, or 10 years. But the more that we plant now, the greater our harvest will be, if you will, okay? And to use kind of that planting metaphor, it just takes time. And so we're gonna start planting with some really intentional plans and campaigns over the coming year. We're launching a micro campaign, which we hinted at the last couple of weeks. And this micro campaign is gonna be in support of our OASIS program as it continues to grow. The OASIS program is our homeless youth services program here in DC for transition age youth that are 18 to 24. These are individuals that have been homeless or are homeless now that may be transitioning out of foster care, but either way, they don't have the support they need and they are on the street or at risk of being on the street. And many of them are coming from the LGBTQ community, which puts them at a higher risk of exploitation while they're out on the street. So it's such an important program. We are growing the program. We're seeing a new participant come into it, but as they move into their new place, they need household items, they need furniture. So the marketing and development team figured that this was a great place to start in terms of a micro campaign to try to raise between $5,000 and $7,000 in support of getting the furnishings and the household items we need. That is one example of campaigns that we'll be doing in the future. More will be rolling out, and we'll go live with that campaign in the next few weeks, and certainly give you an opportunity to share about it and participate in it. But that just gives you an example of how by bringing in the right team members, we can start building a campaign that will ultimately help us generate the resources we need to support the individuals that we support. So it's a full circle thing, and we're excited to be participating in it. But we will be doing more investments in other strategic initiatives. And we are also always looking at our structure. One of the things I shared with the board before coming on and being selected as the CEO at St. John's was that the structure of St. John's had been very static. It had not changed a lot. And that creates opportunity, because as you start to change structure, as you start to understand the strengths of team members or different functions or groupings of individuals, as you start doing things a little differently, you release opportunity for greater return for the people you're supporting and for the organization. And so we'll also continue to do some structural changes that build capacity and allow us to further our mission and create more value for the people we support and their families, and greater return for the organization. So more to come as that gets fleshed out. I will certainly be keeping you up to date as that changes. I wanted to make sure you knew about the changes in development that are happening, but I will certainly be telling you about the upcoming changes as they get fleshed out and codified, and we start moving in those directions. So more to come on that. Along development as well, I wanted just to update you on Advocates for All. So right now, currently, our interview with Precious is still up for Advocates for All. Next week, we will be launching an interview that I did this past week, which was with Jackie Dossie, who's the mother of Kobe, who we serve in Tennessee, down in Martin. And Kobe is an inspirational, amazing person and story. And he has been using technology in incredible ways to further his ability to communicate. And he's a nonverbal individual, but through the power of technology and his use of the apps on his iPad, he's been able to now independently start deciding when and who he wants to call and communicate with. And his mom, out of the blue, got a phone call, and it was just, it made her giddy that her son had decided totally independently to pick up his iPad and reach out and call his mom. And since then, apparently he's been nonstop doing that, which is just brings her so much joy. But it's an example of how we're leveraging technology to help create independence and provide the opportunity for an individual who supports to live their best life. That's what it's all about. And that's what the staff and the team down in Martin have been doing. And so be sure to tune in next week and share that video with about Jackie. Because she's just incredible. She's such an ambassador for St. John's. She's an advocate for her son. She actually works in the field of disabilities, and so she understands our field that we provide services in. And she's such a supporter and fan of the staff. And so great interview. I think we're going to actually use Jackie in the future as a reference by video for other families that might be looking for services for their loved ones. But great interview, great energy. Look forward to getting that up there so that you can have a chance to share that and see that. All right, so at this point in time, let me just pause here and ask, are there any questions? I'm trying to think if I missed anything. I'm going through my notes and I don't see any questions so far. Chloe has put in an article that I did publish for LinkedIn. So you can click on that or visit LinkedIn. Certainly, if we're not linked together, please reach out and feel free to send me an invite to link in with you. LinkedIn is a special platform that we're trying to improve our presence and our brand on. And so I recently did an article based on kind of my 2 fucks to share that I shared a couple of weeks ago with you. And so hopefully we'll be using our social media platforms like LinkedIn to kind of share more of our perspective and our point of view over time. So you can start by checking that out, see if you like it, and feel free to share that. Okay, no questions on YouTube. Thank you, Ryan. I don't see any in the chat. Feel free, if you have any questions, go ahead and either take yourself off mute, or if you would, feel free to place something in the chat. That would be awesome. Okay. I'm not hearing any questions or seeing any questions. Let's roll into the last segment here of 2 fucks to give. And the 2 things I want to share today, one is personal and one is more public. And I'll start with the personal one. So listening to Precious last week, talking about the good that has and can come out of this time of the pandemic and COVID, because we have all been forced in some way, shape, or form to press pause or get sidelined, or to evaluate things about ourselves, right? So I wanted to take a moment just to be vulnerable with you. I was really, really moved by her reflection on that personally, and it was causing me over the last week or so to also kind of think through things in my life too. And a few of you know this, but one of my daughters, I have two daughters, I have four kids, two older boys, and then twin daughters that are 15. And they are in upstate New York. They live with their mom, and then we have joint custody, and so they'll come down here, I'll go up there, that kind of thing. But a few of you know that a few months ago, one of my daughters experienced a mental health crisis right back when COVID was just happening. And so this was early mid-March, and it actually caused her to have to be hospitalized for a few weeks, and then essentially withdraw from the remainder of the school year. And it was a really sad and difficult time as a dad, and certainly as a family for us to kind of work through. And I was able to visit her and kind of early into her hospitalization in March, when she was initially hospitalized. But then once COVID fully hit, I wasn't able to get back to New York to see her or my other kids until June. And that was really difficult, honestly, to try to figure out how, as a dad, do I support my kids, and particularly her going through this time remotely, and as she was trying to recover and get stronger, and I was trying my best to participate in our remote therapy sessions together, and I would certainly try to call and text and Zoom with her and my other kids as much as possible. But it was really difficult. And a lot of times through that process, I was feeling pretty helpless at times, or feeling pretty removed. And so you can imagine my joy, my anticipation I had for my girls coming down to spend most of July with myself and Meg. And I was determined to be as present as possible, as at least that they would want, seeing as how they're both teenagers. And I also wanted to be as determined to support her to the best of my ability as she took a couple summer school classes in order to try to catch up a little. And I think it was a great month. They were here for around 3 weeks. I'm happy to say that with her weekly therapy, the right medicine, and her family support, she's doing incredibly well. And it really made my heart full to see her starting to thrive again. That was really, really a great experience. And to see her loving to learn again and experiencing success in school again was also a really, really positive thing, which made Monday, frankly, just horrible, because Monday was the day that I put my two daughters and my oldest son in a car, and they, went back to New York. It was so difficult. And after seeing them off, literally, my heart just sank, and I was just overcome with sadness, to have not been with them for a period of time, to have gone through this time of struggle, but then to be back together and have them around and present, and to see her doing so well. I just really appreciated, that, but it was difficult to, at the same time, see them go. And I was feeling the pain of that, as many of us deal with loss or grief of change. That was just a really challenging time. And I realized that I was grieving in a way, not just from the loss of their presence, but how the change that comes with life, the good and the bad, can be difficult. So anyway, Monday happened, and I felt pretty useless at that point, or not productive anyway. Like I couldn't really focus on work. So I just had to unplug. I was kind of thinking and reflecting on Rich's leadership in this area of needing to take space, of giving permission for ourselves to take space for ourselves, of what Precious was encouraging, to take time for reflection and space away. So just, I let leadership team know, hey, I'm going to take the rest of the day off. And honestly, at that point in time, I grabbed a beer, I got out to my shed, and I started organizing it, just to basically be able to do something that I felt was somewhat a distraction. And then later sit down with my wife and kind of talk through things with Meg, and just kind of how I was feeling and things like that, processing through that. So what have I learned from that, and why am I sharing this with you? Just a couple thoughts I wanted to throw out there. First, I just want you to know that my life isn't perfect either. You know, I absolutely love St. John's, the people we support, and what we're creating together. But I also want to acknowledge and recognize that while we do this amazing work, especially in the midst of a pandemic with all the challenges that it creates, we're often battling our own change or battling our own challenges, right? And one of the things that I've been most blessed by since coming to St. John's are the friendships that I've made here in this community that is so accepting. This corporate community that we have together, it is such a family in so many ways. And there's room that if you're having a bad day, there's room for bad days here. There's room for you to struggle with things that you wish were different in your life. There's room for you to struggle with loss or grief. Like, there's room for that. And I want to just keep reinforcing that that's part of our culture here, that we are a human services organization, but we are humans first. And often before we can be of service to others, we've got to be able to be centered ourselves and to be coming from a place of capacity where we have something to offer and to share, and that it's totally healthy at times for you, for me, to take a step back when we're not in the best space, to be able to be vulnerable with people and say, hey, I need a timeout for a little bit, so I just wanted to share that with you and reinforce that. I know that we've been able to talk about mental health and talk about challenges and having access to resources through EAP. And I want to just keep reinforcing that. If you're going through challenges in your life, EAP is a great resource. Your fellow teammates are there to support you. And we want to be the culture, a place that helps people and supports and that understands. The second thing I also wanted to kind of share was that any change, good or bad, often comes with trade-offs. It's the essence of change. Things are going to be different and things can be dynamic and evolve. And so we've experienced a lot of change with COVID over the last few months. As I look out at over the next year, I believe we're going to experience more change. And with every change comes a trade-off, right? And I just want to just encourage you that in the midst of change, if you're feeling stress or anxiety from that, remember that that's a normal thing to feel, and that with that, understand that any change, whether you're in control of it, not in control of it, can be good, can be bad, and can also create a trade-off somewhere in your life and in your path. And in understanding that, I think being able to own that, be honest about that, identify what those trade-offs are, and then remember you're not helpless in the midst of that, that you can still decide how you're going to respond to the changes and the challenges that you're facing on a daily basis. I was reading a book that's a really great book. We've talked about here before, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck. And one of the things that it talks about is not everything that happens is necessarily your fault, but you are responsible for how you're going to respond to it. And so whatever change happens, whether again, it's change that you created in your life or whether it's change that you decided that has been thrust upon you that you did not create or ask for, it's going to come with trade-offs. It could be good, could be bad. But you still ultimately have the power to determine how to potentially respond to that and how to navigate your way through that. So just want to reinforce that. And then the last point that really, I think, ties into the public thing that I want to share briefly is don't ever give up on the fights that matter, no longer like how long they take. That's really what matters for me, my family, for my children's health, well-being. I can't give up on that fight, right? I've got to, as a father, be there doing my best, no matter what that looks like. And no matter the story I'm telling myself at times that I'm not always doing it the best that I could be doing, I can't give up on that fight, right? And so there's fights in your life, there's fights in our lives together, there's fights as an organization that we have, and there's fights publicly that we can never give up on. And this past week, just kind of as we transition there, my thoughts to kind of the public piece, we lost a titan in the civil rights era and in the civil rights movement through the loss of John Lewis. And I think if there's an individual recently that passed that reminds us to not ever give up on fights that matter, John Lewis would certainly embody that individual. I mean, just to think that this man has served, in Congress, advocating for equality, advocating for rights, since 1987, I believe. 17 terms, I think, is what he served his constituents in Congress, fighting for equality, fighting for justice, and fighting for equal rights. And that's just absolutely incredible, and has spent his entire life, 40, 50, 60 plus years as a civil rights activist, dating back to the 60s. In his work with the marches, in his work with Martin Luther King Jr. It just absolutely is what he lived an inspiring life, but he never gave up. And I think that's absolutely incredible. And I thought that a good way to end our time together was just in reflection on John Lewis. And actually, I don't know if you've seen this, and maybe either I can put it in the chat or Ryan can quickly find it. But it's on the New York Times, and it's a John Lewis op-ed. And he wrote this with the intention of that it would be released after his death. And so they literally just released this article yesterday, this opinion by John Lewis. And I want to take a moment just to read it to us all. It's very powerful, and I think, again, continues his legacy of not fighting, but of encouraging and inspiring us to do better. It's called "Together You Can Redeem the Soul of Our Nation" by John Lewis. While my time here has now come to an end, I want you to know that in the last days and hours of my life, you inspired me. You filled me with hope about the next chapter of the great American story when you used your power to make a difference in our society. Millions of people motivated simply by human compassion laid down the burdens of division. Around the country and the world, you set aside race, class, age, language, and nationality to demand respect for human dignity. That is why I had to visit Black Lives Matter Plaza in Washington, though I was admitted to the hospital the following day. I just had to see and feel it for myself that after many years of silent witness, the truth is still marching on. Emmett Till was my George Floyd. He was my Rashard Brooks, Sandra Bland, and Breonna Taylor. He was 14 when he was killed, and I was only 15 years old at the time. I will never ever forget the moment when it became so clear that he could easily have been me. In those days, fear constrained us like an imaginary prison, and troubling thoughts of potential brutality committed for no understandable reason were the bars. Though I was surrounded by two loving parents, plenty of brothers, sisters, and cousins, their love could not protect me from the unholy oppression waiting just outside that family circle. Unchecked, unrestrained violence and government-sanctioned terror had the power to turn a simple stroll to the store for some Skittles or an innocent morning jog down a lonesome country road into a nightmare. If we are to survive as one unified nation, we must discover what so readily takes root in our hearts that could rob Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina of her brightest and best, shoot unwitting concert goers in Las Vegas, and choke to death the hopes and dreams of a gifted violinist like Elijah McClain. Like so many young people today, I was searching for a way out, or some way might say a way in. And then I heard the voice of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. on an old radio. He was talking about the philosophy and discipline of nonviolence. He said we are all complicit when we tolerate injustice. He said it is not enough to say it will get better by and by. He said each of us has a moral obligation to stand up, and speak out. When you see something that is not right, you must say something. You must do something. Democracy is not a state, it is an act, and each generation must do its part to help build what we call the beloved community, a nation and world society at peace with itself. Ordinary people with extraordinary vision can redeem the soul of America by getting in what I call good trouble, necessary trouble. Voting and participating in the democratic process are key. The vote is the most powerful nonviolent change agent you have in a democratic society. You must use it because it is not guaranteed. You can lose it. You must also study and learn the lessons of history because humanity has been involved in this soul-wrenching existential struggle for a very long time. People on every continent have stood in your shoes through decades and centuries before you. The truth does not change, and that is why the answers worked out long ago can help you find solutions to the challenges of our time. Continue to build union between movements stretching across the globe, because we must put away our willingness to profit from the exploitation of others. Though I may not be here with you, I urge you to answer the highest calling of your heart and stand up for what you truly believe. In my life, I have done all I can to demonstrate that the way of peace, the way of love and nonviolence is the more excellent way. Now it is your turn to let freedom ring. When historians pick up their pens to write the story of the 21st century, let them say that it was your generation who laid down the heavy burdens of hate at last, and that peace finally triumphed over violence, aggression, and war. So I say to you, walk with the wind, brothers and sisters, and let the spirit of peace and the power of everlasting love be your guide. John Lewis. May he rest in peace, and may we continue to learn from his legacy and his inspiration. That brings our time together, or our agenda together, to a close, but I just wanted to potentially open up the floor for any comments or questions. I'm happy to hang out here for a few more minutes until we officially end our time together. And thank you, Ryan, for putting that into the chat. There's also an audio version of that too, so be sure to check that out.
Hey, Alan.
Hi, Precious.
It's me. So before I go into another PAYCOM session, I just wanted to say how so moved I was by your final thoughts, and I just want to say that it's definitely inspiring. Your leadership, your vulnerability is inspiring, and for you as a man, it's inspiring to see a man speak to that level of dedication to your integrity, your family, your role as a father, your role as a husband, your role as a leader for us all is inspiring. And it should never let that light never go out. That is what's missing in most of what we do every day. That is what we call love. Love cures everything. And what you have just displayed to us in your way of just talking about your family and things that you're struggling with, that is what is called love. Many of us struggle with just being vulnerable. And men struggle with it most. Both just men as a species, you're all your own species, and culturally and professionally, that's usually not there. And for many who have not had or have seen a father figure do that, it's healing. Just put it that way. So just thank you. I could not allow myself to leave this session and go into another PAYCOM session without voicing that, because that is what is needed. You have done that, and I know just based on your friendship, I have been blessed by that kind of level of vulnerability and communication. So I just wanted to say thank you. I just wanted to let that light never shine out. Let no one tell you ever that it's wrong, and continue to do what you've been doing, and we will follow.
Thank you so much, Precious. That means so much to me. Thank you very much.
Well, I hope everyone has a great weekend. These weekly town hall meetings is just, they're getting greater and greater and greater. And I don't know what to say. I couldn't have prayed to be a part of a better organization. And you're absolutely right, Precious. That is amazing, Alan. And I greatly appreciate it. Just you being so transparent that you are. And I always tell people I work for an amazing company. Like it's hard to put in words when you're trying to explain it to other people that gives you the struggle of day-to-day jobs. And it's like, well, yeah, we're not perfect. We got room to grow. But when we look at leadership and we hear those things from you guys, it helps more than you know. It's like, okay, let me hit the reset button. I got more work to do. And come on, get back on track. Let's keep this train going. But we greatly appreciate you. I tell you every chance I get how much I appreciate and love your leadership. And it shows for everybody else. It's a flow down. And it makes it better for us to lead the people. And it makes it better for the direct support to lead the people we support. So I greatly appreciate you. And as Precious said, please do not ever let nobody dim your light in that avenue. I thank you. And thank you to Precious so much for last week. It's still burning in my spirit. But thank y'all so much. God bless y'all. I hope everyone has an amazing weekend.
Thank you so much, Shantae. Thank you all. Well, I'm going to just bring this to a close. I'll hang out, but we'll officially adjourn. Thank you so much for participating and making time. I hope you all have an amazing weekend, whether you're going on shift or whether you're coming off and getting some time to relax. Thank you for everything that you do across St. John's. Thank you for just making this such a special and unique place to work and be part of this community. So take care, everyone. Bye now. We'll see you soon.